Without further ado, we're going to get started with our first presentation, which is from Susan Comfort and Tyecia Powell, co-founders of Nonprofit Wellness. And then immediately afterwards, the Q&A will have evaluators Hassan from 4.0, Rena Johnson from CityBridge Education, Justin Lessig from Sojourner Truth PCS, and Maria Jose Carrasco from LAM PCS. Without further ado, welcome to Susan and Ty.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas tardes a todos. We are Nonprofit Wellness, and I'm Susan Comfort. My partner Tyecia and I have a plan for addressing the epidemic of burnout among the 20 million teachers and staff at nonprofits and schools in the US. So we're going to start tonight the way we begin many of our trainings, with a deep breath. So we invite you right now, go ahead, take a deep breath in. See, breathing speaks the language of the nervous system. Go ahead, take another, they're free. And breathing is always here for us, but we don't really make enough mindful moments in our day. So keep breathing, please, while we talk with you tonight. I first learned to breathe for real 20 years ago when I started learning yoga as a way to deal with stress at work. I was a VP at Environmental Working Group, and we were growing. During my tenure, we went from $2 to $6 million. We went from, our email list exploded from 4,000 to 500,000 people. And I was in charge of all of that. Lots of nights, lots of weekends. But at that job, I also personally grew from 0 children to 2 children and from 1 spouse to 0 spouse. Perhaps some of you can relate to family stress too. So eventually it was too much, and I moved on to a less demanding job. That's why when a study came out last year saying 45% of nonprofit workers plan to change their jobs, I wasn't surprised. Turnover is unfortunately a big part of nonprofit culture.
Hi everyone, I'm Tyecia Powell, and I've spent over 15 years in education, from teacher to leadership. I've reached my breaking point though when DCPS started teachers doing home visits. Great for connecting families to schools, right? We spent weeks being trained on how to do a home visit, even given a script on what to say. But there was no script given for the emotional impact it had on teachers, no trainings on what to do if these visits triggered our own past trauma of stressors and barriers of absent biological fathers or abuse. Several times I remember crying on the metro after these visits, saying out loud, I can't do this. I can't do this. But with no institutional support or coping skills, I fell back on old habits of a happy hour culture with coworkers to commiserate and complain. But neither they nor I shared enough to really learn or help each other. With constant triggers and a broken culture of self-care, it's no wonder I eventually quit and joined the 25% of DC teachers leaving every year.
So our stories reflect a broader issue. Schools and nonprofits are burnout incubators. There's a lot of hotspots: low pay, long hours, unstable budgets, feeling like a drop in the ocean, personal safety concerns. It's no wonder our hair is on fire. And burnout leads to attrition, which leads to worse outcomes for students and constituents. The problem is particularly bad here in DC. Like Ty said, we already had twice the national average teacher turnover rate, and that was before the pandemic. I focus more on nonprofits. Ty works every day in schools. So what both sectors have in common is employees who are better at taking care of others than themselves. That's why we use an approach we call team care, putting the we in wellness. Because self-care isn't one of our strengths. That's the aha moment we had when we did our pilot in 2019.
And while there's an $11 billion industry of corporate wellness, few focus on schools and nonprofits. So we focus on wellness equity, the concept that institutions with the most stress should receive the most wellness resources. We developed 4 core trainings and a dozen skill shops designed to shift the culture of our unique workplaces through physical and mental wellness. We've recruited experienced trainers from ages 19 to 80 who prove that we can scale our approach beyond us 2 founders. Take a look at this slide. So we have a 3-year vision and a model for building resiliency through team care at schools and nonprofits nationwide. Here's what we need for our next steps, which are urgent as we anticipate what one study calls a turnover tsunami after the pandemic. Our top goals for the fall are: 1, create professionally edited video courses from our live and studio trainings in English and Spanish. With an increasingly virtual world and to scale quickly, we need asynchronous tools to complement our live trainings. 2, we'll train a new school wellness core. These core members will teach teachers, or coach teachers rather, and admin to fulfill the DC requirement of having wellness committees in every school. Right now, it's an unfunded mandate. 3, we'll also coach leaders at nonprofits on creating and improving teams committed to wellness.
And this pandemic gives us a unique moment to take stock and reprioritize. It's fueled by a collective desire, though, to make not just a new normal, but a better normal. So next slide, please. As we transition to 501c3, our top priority is fundraising to bolster our fee-for-service roots. So philanthropic, corporate, and incubator support will help bring team care to the districts and organizations who most need it, but can least afford it. So our fundraising goal is $375,000 for each of the first 2 years. So if you or someone you know may be a potential funder, please let us know. The philanthropy support in red will allow us to scale our fee-based services in blue. Also, we're looking for a COO, so someone who can focus on our transition to nonprofit status and development and operations, while Ty and I spend more time training staff, developing, and delivering curriculum. So if you know someone who would be a great fit for this, please let us know. We're eager to meet them. So we've been building our team slowly and carefully, but now in this urgent moment, we must push harder for our vision of wellness equity. As co-founders, scrappy Baltimoreans, and good friends, Ty and I are in this for the long haul.
So before we end, I want to spend a moment giving everyone a snapshot of how we build cultures of well-being through team care. Susan reminded us to take a breath and create mindful moments in our day. I like the physical wellness piece. So right now, where you are, please just stretch your arms straight up in the air. Stretch to the right, back to center, now to the left. Just a simple stretch gets the blood circulating, releases endorphins internally, and bonds the team by going through an experience together, developing team care. Maybe you can even incorporate stretch breaks in your Zoom meetings from now on. So Susan and I started Nonprofit Wellness to change cultures through team care and wellness equity. Right now, we have a huge opportunity to help educators and world changers find more joy and find more reasons to stay in their jobs. Now we need you to join our team to put the we in wellness and bring it to others. Thank you for your time.
I know we can't applaud, so I'll applaud for
Thunderous
you.
applause ensues.
There we go. Thunderous applause. Now, if we can get the 4 panelists, Rina, Hassan, Justin, and Maria. Let's see, Hassan's here, Rina's here, Justin is here. And just waiting for Maria. There we go. Maria's here.
Maria Jose, please.
Thank you, Maria Jose. Thank you so much. All right, so I will just turn it over to any of the 4 of you to just ask some questions to our to Susan and Ty.
All right, I'll kick off. Thank you, Tyecia and Susan. I'm genuinely deeply inspired by your vision for wellness equity. Thank you for reminding us to breathe and stretch. So thank you. I wanted to just hear from you, if you can highlight to us maybe some of the lessons from your pilot in 2019, as well as maybe this past year, especially that you're carrying with you to the next year.
Sure. Well, I can speak about our pilot, which is actually how Tyecia and I met. She was a manager of a fitness and yoga studio, and I asked her for a donation for our pilot participants. And what we learned, this is our wellness equity report that came from that pilot. And we had professional evaluation, 3 sets of surveys, qualitative interviews, et cetera. And basically all of the wellness areas increased that we measured, except for the one about work satisfaction and commitment. That stayed steady. But the areas we measured were energy level, work-life balance, productivity, and physical fitness. And they all went up, not dramatically, but it was 6 months. And that was, one measure. And, our school clients are happy with our work, but this has been kind of a weird year for evaluation and, norms. So culture and turnover are both shifting dramatically as a result of COVID. And we're eager to establish new evaluation measures that can measure staff joy as well as retention or turnover. And frankly, nonprofits don't even measure turnover, at least in my 25 years of nonprofit experience. No one's ever mentioned the turnover rate at any of the organizations I've worked for, unless it was built into the model, like the AmeriCorps programs that I've run. And so, at schools, at least y'all measure stuff. So Tyecia's experience getting her doctorate and, diving into the research has really given us a lot of lessons learned from everyone else's research. And we have a lot of anecdotal and practical research. And of course, some surveys, we've done surveys and interviews as well as part of this pilot. And in our business plan, we have a lot of the quotes actually from the interviews. So if those of you who have access to the business plan can see some of the learnings there. So that's a little bit about some of the data. And we could talk for hours about, I think, our anecdotal learnings and our perspectives on all of this, but that's what led us to the place we are today.
So I could go next. So thank you, Tyecia and Susan, for a great presentation. I am in one of the schools that has greatly benefited from your work. So we're very familiar with it. So in reading the proposal and in hearing you, I have been trying to picture, okay, so now you're looking at scaling, helping more organizations like us that really need you. And part of that plan includes having the ones that you have been supporting so long graduate so that we can continue this work on our own. So my question was like, how could you also take advantage of these graduates that you have, that you have empowered, like to help you with that scaling up that you have? Because I think that we could play a role in helping you get to where you want to go. So I don't know what you have thought about that, but I'd like to hear about it.
Ty, do you want to take a stab?
So let me, hopefully I'll answer your question here, but we're looking at kind of that concept through the wellness core aspect, right? That approach of taking interns, taking schools and wellness and different people that want to be a part of this core, the core members. Susan and I work for Playworks and Urban Teachers, so we know those organizations well and how to build these core members that can help us expand, that can help us access more schools, access more nonprofits that way. That's one of our goals for the fall, and hopefully it'll help pull Susan and I in a way that we can coach the leaders in a different way. We will still be a part of the schools, but hopefully creating core members that represent our values as well too. Hopefully that answered your question.
Well, I could speak as the, since Lim is a client that, your school leaders in the school, as well as nonprofit wellness folks like Kevin and other trainers we've brought in, can be voices for school wellness. We are user designed and sort of grassroots culture focused. And so we want to highlight and spotlight those voices in Spanish and in English, right? So that we can serve as models. DC is already a model for a lot of educational things, but this is another way, since we require wellness committees in the law, we may as well, really flesh them out and see what the possibilities are for changing school culture, and then share that with the world. That's what the video series is about. That's why we want to highlight, Lamb and Truth and other schools we've been working with in those videos as well, so that we can share that asynchronously and not just count on live webinars and live trainings all the time. So sorry to jump in, but wanted to at least speak to, I would love to highlight Lamb. So I'm going to remember you said that, Maria Jose.
So thank you guys. That presentation, super inspirational, super motivational. I'm Ty, super familiar with your work and how busy you are in general. I think after reading this business plan and hearing that presentation, I have a whole new awe and respect for everything you guys have done. I'm curious, looking at, and so this question is based on sort of my limited experience with nonprofit sort of business work, which is primarily with schools. And so this question is in earnest, but it might be a naive question. But when looking at sort of like the philanthropic support that you all are looking for, I see 375K per year for the upcoming year, 375 for the following year, and then this jump to 700. And I'm curious, I guess, again, my experience has been with, as a school that's hoping as we scale to require less philanthropic support. And so that's a little bit inverted, I guess, from what my experience has been. And I'm curious as to whether, what the ensuing years you might anticipate looking like after that. And if the plan is to continue to rely largely on philanthropic support, or whether that year is a blip for certain reasons as you scale.
Well, I'll tackle that on the fundraising piece. I think it's important to have a diverse revenue stream, and there's so much overlap sometimes between corporate, philanthropic, incubation, et cetera, that they're kind of big buckets. But we want to become less reliant on philanthropic support over time, but I don't know as a nonprofit that we'll ever be completely weaned. However, the urgency of this moment means that we want to scale up more quickly. And so that philanthropic support to give us a runway to develop a school wellness core that is actually, out there working with schools and then sharing the results and the both evaluative and anecdotal results with the world, we hope will then spur other school wellness cores in other cities. And maybe it'll be affiliated with us and maybe it won't, but we kind of don't have time to move slowly on this because we're losing so many teachers and so many passionate people in nonprofits. I saw it for years, and then 4 years ago, we saw it really badly, especially here in DC. So we just feel this urgency of the moment. We could continue kind of tripping along, serving a few dozen folks, but we really want to scale up and involve lots of others in this, as well as spark this kind of effort in other cities and in, around the world.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm actually going to transition us by saying thank you, Ty and Susan. Your brilliance totally was shown to us tonight, and we'd love to give you a round of applause, even though you can't hear from everybody else. And we will transition into our first commercial.